everybody, welcome to the Portsmouth Basketball Podcast. This is part 2 of an interview series. If you haven't heard part 1 yet, go back and check it out. But for those of you who are here at the right time, thank you so much for listening. Let's get into it. It's fair to say, Ryan, the way Paul's spoken of you in the past, and he's playing with you and against you, that you command a respect on your team. So I'm going to ask you this as a player, as a captain of a team. When you're on the court, who's making those calls, the coach or the captain? Who's the one who's really running?
I mean, I think any coach will tell you that, you know, you can only do so much from the sideline. There's only so, you can run a play, you can call out what you see, but ultimately it's got to be executed by the guys that are on the court. And I mean, the best version of this that I've seen, I sat on the bench for the Kestrel's Division 1 team for a little. This is way down, like at the end of my career playing basketball, and Matt Guyman's coaching. So Matt is Bev and Jimmy's son, obviously, and he's, you know, a bit of a legend now in the Kestrel's community as a coach. In every timeout in that season, he had 2 guys on the team. Elliot Dadds, who played on Saturday against Force, he was the captain. And then there's another guy called Brendan Okoronkwo. He played for Kestrel's. He's played for Worcester. He played for Worthing's out at Worthing. Every timeout, the timeout would start of, what do you guys see?
Oh, wow.
That was
really
every single one. Now, I can tell you categorically that Matt knew what he saw and knew probably what he was going to run and what play he was going to call and what defense he was going to do. But again, it's the fact that he asked them, it's empowering them to make decisions, showing them that he values their opinion. And, it definitely had an impact on what decisions Matt made. And I mean, you're talking about 2 of the highest IQ guys in Division 1 at that time as well. So, whether he would do that with his, division or, first year academy team, I don't know. But it was the most impressive thing I'd ever seen as a coach, because it's basically saying,
it's empowering
you
the
guys,
players, isn't it?
You guys are the ones that are going to make this happen. I can put you in the right places, but ultimately, the best play in the world still got to be run by players. And I mean, in my opinion, the proof's in the pudding. They won every trophy there was to win over a 4 or 5 year period.
Yeah, I think it was over the last 6 years, 4 out of the 6 years they've won Div 1.
Yeah.
And I think, I don't want to go into playoffs or cups, but I remember the league. The league, I think it's 4 out of 6. And
I mean, in that space time, they made an incredible run in the BBL trophy as well. Upset some pretty decent teams along the way, and then lost in overtime in the final to Newcastle Eagles. It was an impressive team.
I mean, that is a question that we've got, and I'm not sure who we should get on to do it, but one of our huge questions is, why isn't the Solent Kestrels in the BBL?
Yeah, what's the whole picture there?
Because you win NBL Div 1 4 years in a row. Well, that should justify how you've got the foundation to go to the BBL.
So I can answer some of those questions because I have some relationships with, Matt Guyman's one of my best friends. And the sponsor of the club, James Matthews, I coached his son Louis, and I know James quite well. I'm not affiliated with the club in any way, so I can only really answer from a perception of what I've seen and what I've heard. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Like, we're not holding you to it. No guns to the head or throwing you under a bus.
So I know that James, at one point, particularly when the team was making that BBL trophy run, he was eyeing promoting that team towards BBL level.
That's what we're all thinking.
he was like, seriously, we've beaten. I think they beat. Who did they beat? London Lions. They beat them. They beat Bristol, and then they took Newcastle to overtime. Now, granted, Newcastle didn't have their full squad because of like COVID. It was the last game to be played. I know some of the Americans had already left, but I know James was eyeing that. And in meetings that I've sat in on with Solent University, that was the pathway that they were looking for. They wanted a BBL franchise for both men and women. That was something they wanted, or they said that they wanted. Obviously, you know, the facility at the Solent Sports Complex, the SSC, is amazing, but it's not BBL standard. It doesn't have enough people.
I think is it 700 that you need?
I don't know, but they're nowhere near that. They're nowhere near the seating capacity.
What is the
BBL.
capacity? Or what, could you give us a
I understood
ballpark?
it was 1,000.
Oh, right.
I understood it was 1,000, but I could be wrong. Like I said, I'm not a BBL follower, so I don't know. But I've always kind of understood it was 1,000.
I think maybe your seating needs to be 1,000 because we looked up the BBL. Some of the
it was Bristol
fixtures,
Flyers. I just saw
and they were
one,
getting
it was like
700,
750.
Right.
Maybe your capacity has been.
But I imagine the capacity might be 1,000.
Right.
Kestrels aren't hitting that.
But they're getting a 3,000 seater stadium now. So
I think. I know.
They're
I mean, obviously the Bristol game.
500 in there.
Yeah, I think the Bristol game, where I wasn't at that game. I can't remember what I was doing. I think I was on holiday actually, and they packed it out, and I think it was somewhere around 500 people. And that was a huge game. They played amazing. But so the facility isn't, from my understanding, up to standard. That's one of the blocks. But essentially the biggest thing that happened that's kind of stopped that sort of thought process of moving forwards was Solent University. So one of the guys that was heavily involved in elite sport at Solent University, there's a guy called Matt Bishop, and he's got a son that's come through the program, or in the program at the moment. He's very sort of pro basketball, but he looks after sport for the whole university, or did look after sport for the whole university. Well, right towards the end of this season, he no longer works for the Solent University, and they brought in a new person to take over from Matt, and that person is not interested in elite sport at the university. They're looking at participation sport. They essentially pulled the plug on the Solent Kestrels.
Oh no!
National League or division professional team, because there was a point where we didn't even think we were going to be able to use the facility. They were going to charge us to use the facility, and because they want the facility to be available to their students and those types of things. So,
wow.
Now,
because you've got the other court there.
Yeah,
but I guess.
Yeah, so
can't put badminton lines on that nice court.
I mean, who knows? What we know about university like sport is that if they decide they want to make money, the easiest way to make money is putting badminton courts in.
Yeah. It
makes far more money than basketball. It's a fact. It's what the whole country sport is competing against. Basketball is competing against it because it makes more money. You can get more people onto the the area, and they're willing to pay more money.
Which is ironic, because actually the numbers of people who actually play basketball in the UK is quite big. It's quite significant.
The demographics are different as well.
Yeah.
So that's, no disrespect. I mean, I used to play badminton, ashamedly.
What?
Yeah. Wow. Did you just admit that?
That's embarrassing.
We don't do edits either, so that's staying in.
I played county level badminton until I was 14, 15. But going to county badminton sessions, people are rolling up in Range Rovers and that kind of thing. These people have got money. They can rent out an entire half of a sports hall for their kids to play badminton. There's not many kids that play basketball that have that situation.
But if you
and so that brings me to the next part with the Kestrels. James Matthews, so if you know I don't know if you know who James Matthews is, you've probably never heard of him, or have very little sort of understanding. But James basically is Kestrels. So when Solent Stars folded, we still had the junior program running. We wanted like kids to be able to play basketball. So James, he runs a security firm called Kestrel Guards, who you've probably seen signs of at schools all around the place. James owns Kestrel Guards. He's the manager of that business. When we needed someone to kind of step in and stabilise the club financially, that's when we became Solent Kestrels. So I'll put the money in. His son was coming through the program, Louis. His other son, Benji, was younger. He was also coming through the program. I'll put the money in, but I want it to be named after my company. So it became Solent Kestrels. And James has been putting his own money into the club ever since. So, yeah. So, at first it was probably selfish on his, partly selfish on his part, so that his son had a National League team to play for, because if he didn't put the money in, it probably wouldn't have happened. And then Louis progressed and wanted to play men's basketball, so he ended up putting money in to do that. And then James probably got to the point where we had a decent team and decided, I want to play real life basketball manager, rather than, let's see if I can actually build a team that can win everything. And then he got to the point where, if we can win this, then maybe we can win Division 1 and maybe we can compete with these franchises in the BBL. But I'm sure it costs him a lot of money. I've got no idea but he was putting money towards accommodation for players, the Americans coming over. He was paying salaries, bonuses.
So he's pulled out.
So James, when Louis retired, so Louis Kirkman is James's son, retired 3 or 4 years ago now. So he played a couple of seasons Division 1. And we all expected when Louis retired that James was going to pull the money. And it would have been justified for him to do that because he's been doing it for so long. But he carried on. And that's kind of when they made their big run of winning everything. James was still putting the money in. But I think it's probably, to my understanding, he's still involved in some way, but not driving. When I played for them in Division 3 and Division 2, and James was letting us use the company Land Rovers to drive to and from the games. He had 2 Defenders that were company cars because it's a security firm.
Yeah.
And I was driving the Defenders to the games.
Oh, wow.
Or one of them, obviously. And then...
that makes a huge difference, isn't it?
So he's still involved and he still puts things in. But he was fully funding that team. We have other sponsors, we have other people putting money in. I think Evolution 5 is one of them, is a local company that's putting money in. But James was fronting a load of his money into making that team. And suddenly there was a threat of, you're not going to have a facility, you're not going to, And also, where's the challenge? If you don't have the ability to play in the BBL, if that's what because it would have cost a hell of a lot more money to put a team into BBL. You've already won everything in Division 1.
Yeah,
you've got nothing left
next?
to prove.
Yeah, that's tricky.
And then on top of that, so Matt has got, was kind of dragged along by the whole thing. Matt's got no real interest of coaching Division 1 basketball, but he just did because it was a great team, and James was very driven to make that sort of team happen, and Matt's one of the best coaches in the country. But he's got a young family. He was, you know, there were times in his season where he was doing back-to-back weekends, you know, like 2 games on back-to-back weekends, you know, and he was never seeing his missus and his 2 kids, and that puts a strain on your relationship and your life, and he's ultimately paid as the academy coach for Itchen College. That's what he does, and that's what his responsibility is. And you know, I think they kind of saw the whole sort of thing happening all at the same time as like a sign of, do you know what, we've put all of our eggs in this Division 1 men's basket, and we've kind of neglected some of the community stuff and some of these younger teams that, you know, that have up and coming. We've got to reinvest in that, become more of what Solent Stars and Solent Kestrels used to be, which was a community club.
Get that back.
That you know, develops kids and creates opportunities for them to go and play basketball elsewhere.
And I think, you know what, that's the foundation of all the clubs, that even Portsmouth, Winchester, Whiteley, what they're all trying to do. So the only thing I didn't understand was, why did they come out of Div 1? Is it just because they weren't going to compete? Was that financial?
So,
because I kind of thought, you know what, you guys have earned the right. Even though I think they finished 7th, I'm like, look, you've still earned the right to be in Div 1.
So the first thing was, and again, I don't want to tread on people's toes too much, but obviously they had Ben Stanley coaching last year. And because of how uncertain the whole situation was with the university potentially pulling the plug on elite sport, they couldn't promise Ben Stanley a contract to coach. Matt doesn't want to coach in Division 1 anyway. He stopped doing that last year for that reason. So this was late in the off season. So to get a quality coach in, they'd already started the recruitment process for the university, because we were getting scholarships from the university for players to come. They'd already started that whole process, or Ben had already started that whole process, and then the plug gets pulled, and they were in a position where they were going to have a pretty competitive Division 1 team, or as competitive as they were the year before, and suddenly all of that's gone. And then when you've got players that are looking to play Division 1 and things get pulled, they start taking the first options that come to them. Does that make sense?
No, we saw some of the player movement and was like, oh wow, they're just going down the road here, and
So, you know, you've got guys, you know, a couple of them have gone to Essex, a couple of them have gone elsewhere. And so you're not going to be competitive at Division 1. You don't have a coach that's wants to coach at that level, is driven to coach that level, because you don't have the money and you don't have the, you know, the contract availability. And any good coach is going to be signed by the summer. Do you know what I mean? And ultimately, the coaching staff at Itchen College said, you know what, we've got to go back to providing a pathway for these academy kids and these under 18 kids to play men's National League basketball, because that's the best thing for their development. And as good as those kids looked on Saturday against Portsmouth, 4 or 5 of them are local kids that have just stuck around. The academy kids aren't at that level yet. You know, Asa's showing signs of brilliance. A couple of guys that look decent, but they're going to be challenged at Division 2. And that's with their team bolstered by local guys. It'd be tough to go into Division 1. Disappointing, and I know the whole club was disappointed that we've been so good for so long, but it was kind of a multitude of things that happened, a snowball effect, and they just said, you know what, we need to dial this back and start again and build back up to that level if we can get there, you know, in the correct way.
So will the Kestrels be still located there?
So they've, you know, I think. And I haven't been involved in this situation, so I don't know. But there's been home games there already, so you know they've kind of softened their stance about it. I think
good.
The new people that have sort of come in have sort of given Kestrels a deal on rental of the gym, so we're not paying full price for the rental and stuff like that.
When we spoke to Simon, one of the things that stuck with me was how playing in France, he said, well, we're playing in the city and we're playing for this area. So that township are like, oh no, you don't pay facilities because you're representing this town.
Every night, all day.
And you just think, why don't we do this? Why does this happen over here?
Because in England, we have money and it get monetized, and because someone's looking at it going, you know what, I can do that for free, or I can get paid.
I mean, spending time, obviously I've spent time in Germany because of my partner and seen the way that they obviously deal with basketball.
Is it similar to the French way?
It's definitely not like the UK version. So my understanding is you cannot run a team in their version of the National League unless you've got a sponsor that's willing to, put a considerable amount of money in. Most of the teams in this country are self-funded, aren't they?
Yeah.
People are paying monthly fees, or someone is just putting their own money in. They're not taking any real credit for it. Do you know what I mean? The teams in Germany, they have to have a sponsor. The name goes on the kit, and they derive some kind of benefit from that sponsorship. In this country, sponsorship deals rarely actually derive any benefit for the people that are putting the money in. You go in, I'm not speaking politically here, but if you go in as a sports team and you say to a company, will you sponsor us? The conversation should be, well, okay, we've got some money to sponsor you, but what are you offering in return?
What are we going to get out of it? Yeah.
That's the way that it should work. But what are we really offering?
VAT. You get it back on VAT. So
it's a tax write-off. Exactly right.
We had this conversation a few days ago, and because Mark was thinking about sponsoring the Portsmouth Force, and I turned around and said, Mark, what are you getting out of it other than donating money?
Mm-hmm.
And that's to be commended, because I think you said it on the podcast, if you had money to spare, you'd put it into a team. And I would do the same thing. I want to see basketball grow. I want to see people given opportunities that I might not necessarily get. If I had money to spare, I'd like to think that I would be able to put some into basketball. But that's not sponsorship.
No.
That's giving
charity.
Back. That's charity. Exactly right.
Exactly. And that's where I'm looking at it from, not necessarily the seniors team. So if Rob, if you listen now, just turn off. But actually going with the juniors and going for that same thing.
Yeah.
Because that's that foundational work. And there are certain, I think it's Sports UK or Sport England, and there's certain things where you can do where if you donate to the club a certain amount of money, Sport England will either co-match that, or there's a certain amount of funding.
Sports match, it used to be called Sports Match. I don't know what it's called now.
But it's that sort of thing. But certainly for the under 18s and the junior sort of stuff, they can do quite a lot of that. And it's like, oh yeah, I would 100%, we'll do it here for the podcast. We'll do something like that because then that's great, because it's helping a community and it's helping do that.
Yeah.
So the seniors, I had a theory on this, and someone I know who works but also plays a rugby club. Each of the players gets a sponsor.
Yeah.
And then when you see the match day, they'll have a program, and then each player has their own profile.
Yeah.
And
with the company
that they sponsor underneath. And every player only has to get a sponsor of like 250 quid or something like that, which sounds
trivial, yeah.
Which is, and for that team, that's always going to be on wherever the banner is, and it's a rugby team, they've got X amount of matches. We're only playing 10, 12 home games or whatever.
Yeah.
And more importantly, it's that pet project thing. So you're not going to someone saying, hey, I want $5,000 or $10,000 or something. Whatever. You're just going to someone saying, hey, you're a local business. Your mate plays in that local thing or whatever. You want to promote it to people in the area? Yeah, fine.
Yeah.
And that is, in that area, cheap marketing. You did tell I was in sales for a few years. But that is cheap marketing in that respect, because it's like, there's your captive audience. Those are the people that you want to appeal to. Just
totally.
Why not do that? And but it goes back to it's self-funding. and it's a pet project. It's like we all want to just do it because it's fun and it keeps people going. But there isn't. I don't know if the Sport England. I don't know if any of these big things or what happens. You see all these promotions. There's one even recently. I even starred it or saved it on Instagram, or whatever they say. We're promoting all these sports and outreach. But you think there are sports where's the access? Like that's where you got to support it, and it doesn't seem to be there.
I was in. I don't know why this just popped in my head, but I was in a jazz club in London. And I was talking to the owner.
Left turn.
And he turned around and was talking, and I was talking about actually making money as a jazz club, because obviously you get quiet nights. And he said, "Do you want me to tell you how to make £1 million as a jazz club?" I went, "How?" And he goes, "You've got to be a billionaire."
Yeah, that's it. Yeah,
That's
just
how you
hemorrhage
do
it.
He said, "You just hemorrhage money."
Yeah.
And kind of, I think with sports, sometimes it's similar, isn't it?
Oh, look, how much did Steve Ballmer pay to have the old? Was it the
LA Clippers?
Yeah, the Clippers. Was it the Forum they bought?
Yeah, they've just bought the old Forum, and they're going to be
West Union Forum.
Yeah,
wasn't it? Is that what it's called?
Yeah,
West Union Forum.
West Union Baptist Forum or something.
It was a
like
bank.
that.
It was a bank name, wasn't it?
But it was a church for a while, wasn't it? But the people who owned it were Madison Square Gardens.
Yeah,
and it was 400 million. They sold it for, and he's a little bit fresh with cash, so he's all right. But still, and they just said that the screen is going to be like the biggest screen. It's like most of them are like 9,000 square foot or something, and his is going to be like 28,000 square foot.
Yeah, they got one in Vegas. Have you seen that?
Ludicrous.
It's like a big moon.
Yeah,
so it'll be a big basketball. Or something
he's going to do something like that around
it.
the size. There was a few pictures going up, but you think, okay, yeah, but it's still the Clippers, Steve. Like, what are you doing? They haven't won anything. And you got Kawhi.
Yeah, but
get rid of him.
Well, like I say, when he's playing, he's one of the best 5-10 players in the league. But when's he going to play? That's the question. You don't know.
Yeah,
but if you've got the kind of ridiculous money you need to buy an NBA franchise, it's a money maker. You can see that from Jordan, can't you? I mean, how much did he buy the Hornets for, or whatever they were when he bought them? And he's just sold them for $4 billion, is it? I think.
Yeah, something like that, isn't it? Yeah, he's done very well.
I mean, yeah,
he's not had a bad life, has he?
He's done all right.
He's not had a bad life.
Certainly, he knows how to market himself.
Is he the GOAT? Let's throw it in there right now. Is he the GOAT?
God, you have to do this, don't you?
Yeah.
So,
are you making Ryan pick his number one now? Are you?
No, this isn't number one. I'm just saying, is Jordan the GOAT? It's the question, isn't it?
So, I'll start this by saying I was never a Jordan fan as a like 90s basketball fan.
Really?
No. So I was a Shaq and Penny fan.
Ooh, okay, Penny.
So.
Right, I was going to say, but as a point guard.
Yeah. So
I didn't think my thoughts of Ryan Payne could go higher, but they just have.
So I wasn't, obviously, because they were, when Jordan came back, there was the very quick rivalry between the Orlando Magic and the Chicago Bulls. I wasn't a Chicago Bulls fan. I wasn't a Michael Jordan fan. But it was very easy to see him as the best player of all time during his run and since then. People of my age and my era are very protective of Jordan. And obviously you've got someone in LeBron who we've already talked about coming through, and there's the new fan of basketball probably makes an argument for LeBron. I think it's a lot closer than 90s basketball fans would like to admit. But on the biggest stage, I don't think Jordan's got a black spot on his resume. And although, like, people talk about, how many finals has LeBron lost? I don't really look at that, because I look at when he got to the finals, was his team the best team? And when you look at it objectively, the 3 times he played against Golden State, they weren't the best team. 4, is it 3 or 4? I can't remember. When he was on Cleveland playing against the Spurs, they weren't the best team. But when the first year of Miami against Dallas, they were the best team. He played bad and they lost. Jordan never had that. You can make the case, oh yeah, but there were times he didn't make the finals and all of that, but biggest stage, it just he didn't lose. And it's really hard to get past. I've tried to make. I'm a massive LeBron fan. I really like him. I think he's got a case as the greatest player of all time. I'd try and make every argument I could, but you cannot get around 6-0.
Jordan's he's the blueprint.
Yeah.
That's the way I think of him. Not as necessarily GOAT, because I think that will always be superseded by stats.
Yeah.
And LeBron will pass almost if not all of his stats.
Yeah.
But Jordan was the first real all-defensive player of the year.
Yeah.
Whilst being MVP.
Yeah.
So it's like,
what end do you want him? Yeah.
What end do you want him? Because he's going to destroy you either end.
So I think the case for LeBron is, if you look at that team,
I feel like I need to get comfortable.
Yeah. So
no, it's the question. It is the question, isn't it?
You've got me philosophical now. So if you look at the LeBron run for Cleveland, the team he took to the finals, I don't think, if you want to make the argument for LeBron as the greatest player of all time, I don't think there's another player in NBA history that could have taken that Cleveland team to the NBA finals. I truly believe that. But
sorry, which season is this?
It's when they lost to the Spurs.
Oh, okay.
It's very early in his sort of run of finals appearances.
04, 05, something.
I don't know the year. But that team has had Ilgauskas, they had Eric Snow as the point guard, I believe.
Snow.
I mean, the team he took to the NBA finals, I don't think anybody else in the history of the NBA could do that. I really don't. But if you'd have flipped Prime Jordan for that 2011, was it? 2011 run to the finals against Dallas? Did they win in 2011?
Dallas was 2011.
Jordan's winning that.
Yeah. Oh, Dirk carried them through that. That was a whole Dirk thing.
Yeah.
They were
and he was
out.
amazing. He was amazing in that finals run. He was incredible. But yeah, I don't know. It's the most fascinating part about that argument, is they are completely different players.
Yeah.
That's the most compelling part to the argument for me, is if you were comparing, if Kobe had the career, the scoring and that LeBron's had, and you were trying to compare, it would be an easier comparison because they're so similar in their attitude towards what constitutes greatness. Like Jordan and LeBron are almost polar opposites in the way that they approach the game. Like Jordan, how dare you think that you're going to have the ball in the last 5 seconds of the game?
Yeah.
Only if I deem it necessary that I'm going to pass you the ball. LeBron, almost to his, disadvantage sometimes. He's always been a pass first player, and so he's got the criticism of he's not clutch, and he's not willing to take the big shot, or whatever. No one ever threw that at Jordan. No one said you're not willing to take the big shot to MJ. But I do think it's closer than 90s basketball fans want to admit.
Yeah.
And the arguments about, LeBron's a flopper, he'd never have made it in 90s basketball. Like, he's 6'9", 280 pounds. Like, he's bullied the league for 20 years. I'm sorry, like, they wouldn't have known. They'd have been like, what the hell is this? What is this? They've not been able to deal with it. And the other thing is, counter argument, can you imagine Jordan with a non-hand check in NBA? Like what he would do to the league now?
Yeah,
You're just like, you know, it's a fascinating argument, but
that's probably, I think, the best core of the argument ultimately, isn't it?
Yeah.
That the way the defence is played now.
Yeah.
Like,
It's
But
truly
LeBron-
different eras, isn't it?
LeBron never had to go up against a Charles Oakley who would have physically hammered him. I mean, the closest he's going to get is Embiid being a bit clumsy like he does. But, you know, he's not getting that kind of Shaq coming in and hammering him in that sort of way. By the time Shaq was doing that,
I also think, though, that would have benefited LeBron in ways, like defensively in particular, because he could have been really physical with players, which he's not allowed to be in the current NBA. That's the other thing. So LeBron has had to adapt his game at least 3 times throughout his career. Jordan never really had to adapt his game. Obviously developed the fadeaway later, but he always was a mid-range jump shooter, even in his early days when he was attacking the rim and dunking. He never really had to change his game. LeBron's had to adapt to a complete overhaul of the way basketball was played, and he's still effective. It's just incredible. And I don't think we're going to really have a perspective on how good he is until 20 years from now.
His physical shape has changed a lot as opposed to MJ just got actually buffer he from 80s Jordan to 90s Jordan. He just got more physical.
Whereas he put a lot of weight on, Jordan did over the years.
Yeah, on his upper body in particular,
But LeBron, I think it was when he did the Miami thing, he just went, at one point it was like someone's let the Hulk on the court. He just went super muscly, and then he went, hang on a bit, I've got to take this back down a notch.
Hurt his back, didn't he?
Yeah.
He hurt his back, and the upper body mass was really hampering him, so he had to lose some weight.
But having someone that big as a dominant player, you think that he's the same sort of, he's like a Karl Malone kind of player.
Yeah.
And imagine if he had someone who was like a Stockton. And people could argue Wade was like that with him. Whereas Jordan, it was I don't need anyone to feed me. I'm taking the ball and I'm going with it. But end of the day, LeBron wears a Jordan logo. Jordan doesn't wear a LeBron logo.
Wow.
That's what I'm saying.
Oh, yeah, you said that.
Yeah, I mean, I've gone a long way around answering the question. Like I say, for me, it's Jordan. But, through gritted teeth, it's Jordan. But I think it's a lot closer than people would give it credit for.
Not Paul Gooder.
Unfortunately not, mate. Sorry.
Hey, you know what? I'll take a third. That's fine. Right. So you know what? I mean, that was some great perspective that we got for the Kestrels, because we're hearing stuff that we don't know.
I was prepared for that one because I heard that on a previous pod, and I thought I've like I say, I'm not in it, so I don't know the whole story, but I can give you a little bit of perspective.
It was just a surprise because we just didn't quite. Where's the jigsaw goes?
But it makes sense. And you know what? In fairness to the Kestrels, they're going to go for Div 2, and from what we saw on Saturday, let's hope they do all right. And again, I've said this before, in an ideal situation, let's hope they stay in Div 2 and
you get
Portsmouth
a rivalry in Division 2. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
You never know. Mark, if I do win the Euros, I may let the Kestrels play their home games. So let's go. We've talked about the Portsmouth Smugglers, and you said that you went into the Solent Kestrels and stuff. So we're now at the end of your career, and I'm assuming Nathan asked you to go and play for handball.
No, so Nathan didn't ask me. So I can't remember when it was. I think it was before COVID. So it was before COVID, the lockdown. And it was the season before that, and Mark Jackson was playing for Winchester Royals.
Yeah, he was.
And I guess he got halfway through that season, and I can't remember where I saw him or where he reached out to me and said, you need to come I want you to come and play for Winchester. And I'd done the whole, I hadn't played local league in a long time. I'd sat on the bench for the Division 1 Kestrels team because Matt asked me to, because they had a couple of injuries and they were struggling to field enough players on the roster to not get fined, because if you've got like 7 players or less, you get fined. So he asked me to. I was at a practice one time. I had my stuff, my kit with me. I joined a session. I hadn't played in like 6 months. I hit like my first 4 shots, and then like all the pros like, who the hell is this guy? And then he sort of signed me just so I could fill out the roster, basically. And I just sat on the bench. And Jax knew that I'd kind of got back involved. I'd reluctantly got back involved in basketball because I'd kind of stepped away from it and drawn a line under my career, you know, and said I'm moving on. And he was asking me to come and play for Winchester, and I said no. I said I'm not interested. I don't want to play local league. And then the lockdown happens, and suddenly you've got the entire world saying you can't play basketball. So I've gone from having basketball available to me anytime I want, really, because I can go in, you know, sit on the bench for Solent Kestrels if I want. I've got access to a beautiful gym. I can go and play, and just not having any interest, to suddenly they're telling me I can't. And I start getting the itch. Like, I've got, you know, months go by, you haven't been able to do anything. And I thought, yeah, I would like to go and play. I would like to play. Maybe, you know, maybe I can. And then it got to, we came out of lockdown, and I reached out to Jax because it seemed like we were going to be able to go back at that season to go and play basketball. I don't think it ended up turning out like that. But I said, are you playing for Winchester again this year? And he said, no, I'm actually playing for handball. So he'd obviously done some moving around or whatever, or spoken to Nathan, and was playing for handball. Handball's like 2 miles away from my house. So he was like, you should come along. So I came along. We were like practicing outside on, you know, concrete, in the middle of winter. And in the meantime, Jax had also mentioned GB. You should go to GB trials, you know, over 40s it was at the time. So I'll go to the tryouts, see what that's like, and if I like it and I want to do it, then I'm going to play local league to, you know, keep my hand on the basketball, get in shape, you know, that kind of thing. Play with guys that I like and I know is going to play a style of basketball that it's not going to drive me crazy. And yeah, see what happens. And that's how I ended up at handball.
And handball just won Div 1 last year. They won the playoffs and the senior cup as well.
So my first year, yeah, we won Division 1 and we won the playoffs. Last year we won Division 1, the cup double, and the playoffs. So yeah,
I think
2 years in a row.
What would be good from a Sabah perspective is if we start getting more teams in Sabah in that Div 1 team. Sorry, in that Div 1 league.
Yeah, I think we only had like 6 teams last year in Division 1.
So I think
like that.
It's expanding. So I think you got 2 teams coming up from Div 1, which is the Fury and Chichester. But I just remember from I don't know, I'd say maybe there was always a good 8 or 9 teams in that league. But historically, you used to maybe get 12 good teams in that league.
It's tough now because the Dorset teams have set up their own division.
Yeah.
They used to have 2 or 3 Bournemouth teams in that Sabah local league, and now they're in the Dorset league, which is the right thing for them to do because it was, you know, I remember teams having to drive across to Weymouth to play. So if you had teams in Chichester or Bognor or whatever, and then you're going to Weymouth, it's a long way. But the consequence is you don't have enough teams to field a decent league in Sabah.
Well, hopefully that will build up. That's the one thing I do feel about Div 1. You just need a bit more, just a bit more volume, I think. Yep. So GB Maxi.
Yeah.
So you've got into the squad.
So
you got the thing next year.
So I got into the squad during the lockdown. and I got selected for the team that was going to Malaga in 2022 for the European Championships. That didn't work out for some, strange reasons I'm not really going to go into on here, but
logistics.
Yeah. So I didn't end up playing. I did actually go because my partner she made the over 35 team, and they won the gold at the European Champions.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So they had a really good team. The GB Maxi's best team was the 35 plus women. They were really good. And Andrea started on that team, so she got a gold medal, which was great. I got to have a 2-week holiday in Malaga with my boy, watching her play basketball and going to the pool and doing loads of cool stuff and hanging out with my team. So I did spend some time with the team. I watched all of their games, saw some great basketball, but I didn't play. I started going through the next sort of phase to go to Argentina, which was just happened over this summer for the World Championships. But financially, it just wasn't viable for us this summer. It's obviously a lot of money to go to Argentina in comparison to Malaga. They've just started the next set of trials for next summer, which is the European Championships, which is in Italy. Don't know whereabouts in Italy yet, but I'm still in two minds as to whether I'm gonna go. I want to, but again, it's money.
Do it.
Do it.
Yeah. So I've the coach for the team, the GB Maxi 40 Plus team's Jesse Zazant. So he's one of the guys. So he used to coach East Kent Crusaders, and he coached against us when I was playing for Solent Stars 2 in Division 3 way back when. And I've known Jesse for a long time. Jesse was one of the first he's a Canadian that's come over and lives over here, and he was kind of trying to build that East Kent club, and he was doing website, match reports after every game, and he was always like really complimentary of me whenever we played. That season we played them 4 times, we beat them 4 times. They were probably the second best team in our division. But he always spoke really highly of me and said, when we play against Solent, this is the guy we've got to stop, basically. So I've always had a lot of respect for him, and he's always been really nice to me, and obviously he coaches that team, so I missed out from Malaga. We lost in the semi-final to the other GB team by 1 point, and my ego talking, if I'd have been on the team, I think we would have won.
Wow.
So we'd been playing Italy in the final. Italy was a really good team, and we'd lost to him previously in the tournament.
Well, I think we need Ryan back to see how his GB career goes, Mark.
Next year.
So we'll see.
You win the medal.
Yeah, so I've got to sign up, and then I've got to make the team, because I'm 2 years older now than I was then, and that does make a difference.
But then if you do make the team and you do go there, if you don't bring back that gold,
he's going to be having nightmares about it.
Well, the missus will wake up and just put on his pillow just to keep it going.
At 40 plus, the Italian team is the best team, or has been the best team the last 2 years, and it's in their home country.
Yeah.
So one of the guys that plays for them is top. He's still playing professionally in Italy. So they're decent. They're a good team.
It's interesting that coach you mentioned as well. The Force will be playing against him.
But East Kent. I don't think he coaches that. Yeah, I don't think he coaches the division, like the National League men's anymore.
Oh, okay.
I don't think he does anymore.
We're
he might.
I
don't know. But yeah.
Well, when we play him, I'll ask.
Yeah.
I'll ask.
Find out who it is, and I'll come along.
Keep us posted, and I'll mention it on the pod. Are you getting on with GB?
Yeah.
And Mark, I just want to say this is turning into the longest podcast
I've actually written at the top here 3 episodes. It may have to get broken up.
No, I think 2. You'll be all right.
I hope I'm not boring everyone.
Yeah. No, it's great. It's great stuff. I think
some people listen to Attenborough to go to sleep, and then they find this podcast and they're like, yes.
Well, Mark, look, let's get your questions. I know you have your usual questions.
Yep.
So why don't we crack on with that?
Simple one. Who's taking the shot? The ball's inbound. It can be whatever shot you want it to be, but this is the game winner for the championship of the entire world, gold medal, silver, plat, whatever we want to call it.
I'm going a little bit left field.
Yes.
I've thought about this. I'm going Mr. Clutch, Jerry West.
Wow.
Whoa, the logo.
Yep.
Mr. Logo, Jerry West.
Yep.
Okay. I like it.
Oh,
Yep.
we're going to test my knowledge now.
It's
I'm going to
Jimmy
go
Garmin's
for,
idol, Jerry West.
I'm going to go for 1 championships, one ring out of 9 championships. That would be my guess.
Yeah, I mean, they were going against a juggernaut in those Boston Celtics, though.
I mean, when were those eras though? Because I've got a whole pre-76.
I think they won
Nothing
in 70. That was the year that Bill Russell, the first year Bill Russell didn't play. I think
Yeah,
they won that year.
I've got the whole until the ABA and NBA were joined. None of the rings count. That's just me.
Fair enough.
A lot of Boston and LA people don't like me that much for that. But, that's when you had the Nets joined
Yep.
and Indiana.
Yep.
And I think there were 2 other teams as well. But that's when the NBA as we know it, obviously you've got the expansion teams, but really that made the thing for me.
Just look this up. Jerry West led his team to 9 berths in the NBA Finals, but the Lakers won just 1 championship in 1972. Boom. One
Who was
out of 9.
Who was the last team to win in the 70s?
No idea.
79. Is this? You're asking this question, so I'm going to say Seattle Supersonics.
Oh, yeah.
Light bulb moment.
Yep. And yet that's tagged onto Oklahoma Thunders because they sold the franchise. Let's not go down that road. Okay, so you had your shot.
Yep.
Now you got pick your 5 plus the 1 on the bench.
So,
And we're throwing you the coach question as well.
okay. So, I'm going to answer this question.
He's put thought into. Look at his
He's
face.
excited about
He's
sharing
well
this.
put thought into this.
So, have you guys seen? This is going to sound a bit strange, but have you seen the Spider-Man movie Across the Spider-Verse?
Yeah. What, cartoon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you know how they set up the whole premise of an ultimate a multiverse. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I look at basketball.
Mark, I love where this is going.
So I've had a lot of thought about this. So I've always thought about basketball careers. What if you were in a different multiverse, different universe? Okay.
Are you about to put me in your squad?
No, I'm not. I'm sorry. But so the way that I've looked at it is, if somebody's basketball career went differently, what would it look like? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I'm particularly thinking about career-ending, changing injuries.
Oh, okay.
Or like Jerry West winning all 9 championships.
Yes,
That's what, yeah.
but I'm specifically thinking about injuries. Okay, so I'm saying, who would be my 5 best players projected based on if they hadn't been injured?
Oh, wow.
Oh.
So I'm picking my 5 and my 6th based on that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I'm going to write
So-
my 1 down. I think he's going to say.
So we've already talked about him. So number 1, point guard, Penny Hardaway.
That is a fantastic choice.
Plus, it's a 2 for 1 because you get Little Penny as well.
Yep, very true. Very true.
Number 1 for the Orlando Magic.
That's my point guard.
And what was his number at Phoenix?
No one cares about that.
The 2 guard, Brandon Roy from Portland Trailblazers, because I think he was on track to be an incredible basketball player. Number 3, so the small forward, Grant Hill.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
He talked about careers. It was always going to be him.
He's probably, before he got injured, probably my favourite player.
number 33 for the Orlando Magic.
Yeah, also
And
the
the Detroit
big,
Pistons.
the big dark pit where all the money went for a decade that ruined the team. But other than that, yeah, great player.
Again, I think he was LeBron before LeBron. Obviously had a horrific ankle injury. I'd have loved to have seen what his career would have looked like if he hadn't been injured.
Yeah, I'm sure I heard it on the documentary. He had to put his ankles in these machines that as he slept, it just moved them around to keep the
he got a
circulation
staph
going.
infection.
A what?
Yes, a staphylococcus infection. And he had to have like skin grafts and everything. It's horrific.
Yeah.
Horrific.
It was all through, was it Duke University that he did a load of stuff as well? Because that's where his helmet.
Yep, that's where he is. That's where he's from, yeah.
But
Duke.
they used to do a load, I want to say he was a test subject, but they used to do loads of the sports physio and all this extra groundbreaking stuff for him. Which was, all that stuff was amazing and it must have been devastating for him. But you can't help thinking, unfortunately, his contract, basically, they were just paying a massive black hole on his contract and they couldn't fill the roster because of the nature of the contract.
Yeah.
So
destroyed their franchise pretty much.
Yeah. You think them and Miami Heat, same time. And how many rings have Miami won?
Yeah.
So there we go. Small forward.
So that's small forward. Power forwards was tough. So, and people are probably going to question it, but Zion Williamson.
Oh, okay.
I think, and I hope I'm wrong, but I think his career is pretty much over already. I think it's going to be tough for him to come back and be effective. I hope I'm wrong because I think he could be amazing. But yeah, I think that's another one where you're like, if he'd have lost 50 pounds earlier.
Yeah.
And
each year.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a big, when Charles Barkley's saying you're too big.
Yeah.
You've got problems.
He's the only player, well, I'm sure there's been someone else, the only one I've ever seen to explode his shoe.
Yeah.
That was in Duke, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was, yeah.
But you see when Sean Kemp.
Do you reckon that was set up?
I don't think so.
He's a big dude.
Like literally just ripped his shoe.
The torque he's putting through his feet, I don't think so. I think that was just an example of what a freak human being he actually is.
Yeah.
To have that much power going through to that mass. Like, when they did the study on Usain Bolt on his shoe.
Yeah.
And how much power is going through just that tip bit. And you think Bolt is long and lean. He is probably literally twice Usain Bolt's weight and then some. Just muscle. That to lift that up and
yeah.
I've worn the same shoes the last 10 years, Mark. Right, next.
What, those bright yellow shockers? Yeah.
Centre, Bill Walton.
Bill Walton, yeah. That's a good one.
Obviously had feet and, injuries, foot injuries in entire career. But was on track of being one of the best centres of all time.
Yeah, and I heard someone else say that the other day. If Bill Walton didn't get injured, he was going to be the greatest centre of all time. Who said that? Oh, it's on some NBA thing, but yeah. All right, not the one I thought you were going to go for.
Who did you think I was going to go for?
I'd Bynum, Lakers player. Bynum, because he had,
Bill Walton,
when you're talking injuries, yeah.
And then off the bench, Pete Maravich.
Pete Maravich. Pistol.
Get some Mavs representation again. Lovely.
Pistol Pete.
And then
who's going to control those guys?
Would they all play together nicely, do you think?
Both Penny and Grant Hill were really good passers and really good guys. I think they would play well together. And then I think you'd have Pistol Pete coming in off the bench, just firing from everywhere.
Are you an Orlando fan?
I was when I was a kid. So because my parents took us to Disney World. That's how I got into Orlando, because it was at the time that Orlando first started being really good, and we were in Orlando quite a lot. So they haven't given me much reason to be a fan since then.
I think they say it's one of the most unluckiest franchises who haven't won a.
Well, hang on, you say that. No.
You've also got to look at the decision making. Yeah.
Look at the lottery picks.
That is why you're the most unluckiest franchise to not win a championship.
Oh, yeah, I guess so. But to get to have got Shaq and Penny on the swapsies and Dwight Howard.
Well,
and then
getting Penny was a decision that they went against the fans on that one because they actually picked
Chris Webber.
Chris Webber, and that was they traded him for that. That was that didn't go down well at the time. People were like, what? You had bloody Chris Webber. Why have you got rid of him? But I don't know if you know this story, but there was a pickup game, like just a scrimmage, and Penny Hardaway was going, and this was before he got traded, and Shaq was going to be there, and he was on the same team as Shaq, and Hardaway was like, right, I am just giving the ball to Shaq all the time, just like bam, giving the ball to Shaq, and then Shaq made a phone call, went,
get him.
You need to get this guy.
Yeah.
Mate, why not?
And they were like, right, we've got to do it.
Yeah.
So who's hey, I just want to talk. I don't want to focus on Orlando, but you should see their kit this year. It looks old school.
It's
great.
It's
with the pinstripes.
It's like little stars all over.
Oh, right, okay.
It's
great.
great.
That one. Yeah, it's nice.
It's great.
Popovich, the
Pop.
coach.
Coach Pop.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so you're going for the Euro style coach mix of those guys. That's interesting.
But that's the most unique one we've had.
Yeah, I like that. That was a great list, man. That was a great list.
Yeah. The alternate reality best 5 team.
Penny was the one that I was always considering on mine as well.
I loved his game, man. I just absolutely loved his game. He had the no-look passes, and he was really unselfish, but then he would come down and he'd throw down a dunk on somebody. He could shoot threes. He's just good defensively. I loved watching him play.
I know there's
watching him play.
You're
the
number
argument
2.
With Kobe before Kobe.
Wow,
I've
you're
heard
number
that
2. I'm having T-Mac.
Yeah, so I
Because
did.
he got the injury, didn't he,
Yeah.
with his back and his leg. And
Fellas, you might as well just be putting a bloody Magic squad out if you're putting T-Mac in here as well.
I mean, Grant Hill was Detroit, to be fair. That was when he was at his best. Detroit Pistons.
Yeah.
That's who he was drafted by. That's when he was at his best.
They did a sort of, it was like the reverse faults with Grant Hill, wasn't it? They acquired the injured.
Yeah.
But with Fultz, they obviously probably the deal of the decade.
Yeah.
Well, everyone wrote him off, didn't they? That was it. He was out. Philly didn't want him. Everyone said, nah, he's got the shot, which was that psychosomatic kind of thing going on.
That was weird.
That was
really weird.
Crazy. Did you ever see the clips of that? Markel Fultz shot?
Yeah, I've seen the clips of it, yes.
It's a bit like the golf.
Strange,
Charles
isn't it?
Barkley golf swing, wasn't it? Where it's that stutter thing.
Yeah,
it's incredible.
But yeah, to have put that out, and now you see where he is running the floor, and he's like you've been saying back earlier, where he's very much commanding a team of very young players. He's very much leading that floor.
Yeah,
and he's done a really good job of that. Which you think he was number 1 pick 2016, 2017?
Yeah,
and then got written off that quickly.
Yeah.
So you imagine he'd done all
his
that
career
work,
was over. Yeah.
and then that's it, you're out. And then they traded for Simmons. Then Philly was stuck with Simmons.
Wow.
Wah, wah. And no one won that guy.
I wasn't sure whether to say this or not because this is a bit left field, but when we were in Orlando and we were watching you play, I don't know if no one knows the story, but when we went to Orlando, they did what's the chicken place we went to? Chick-fil-A. Yeah, Chick-fil-A. Do you know that?
Yeah.
Really nice chick. And they had if there was like 5 threes in the game scored by Orlando, you get a free Chick-fil-A meal. So brilliant. So anyway, Orlando, 5 threes in like the first quarter, and everyone's cheering. So when we were there, this was like the 7th Orlando home game, and it was like 15 threes, and everyone gets a meal. Now, for those who don't know, the Orlando Arena, they've got like a Budweiser bar in the middle.
Right.
And wherever your seat is, you can go to the Budweiser bar and just get a beer and watch the game. So that's what we did. And there was one guy, as the threes were going on in the second half, there's one guy, and the only way I can describe him, imagine a voice of someone where they sound like they're having a heart attack, That's what this guy sounded like. And the only word he was saying towards the end was chicken. Chicken! Chicken! And like it was like the 12-3 ran in, the crowd, yeah! And he's like, I want the chicken! Chicken! And then at 14-3, and it was like, chicken! Literally, he's about to have a heart attack. 15th-3 going, boom! Everyone gets the shout, chicken! Anyway. That popped in my head.
That made it. You had a good day that night.
Because Faults were playing. But
yeah, he had a good night that night.
Oh dear, we ate so much Chick-fil-A that
I'm
holiday.
sure you did. Why not?
Right, Mark, this is the longest
Epic.
bloody podcast we've ever done.
This is awesome. Yeah, it's been great. It has been great.
Oh, I mean,
I've enjoyed it.
we've
You
had
enjoyed it?
Yeah,
a
absolutely.
unique
yeah.
experience
Had a great
there
time.
because
Listen, you got to bring your sleeping bag next time. We're going to toast some marshmallows.
Ryan's telling us stuff we don't know. Is this Kestrel's thing that we don't?
No, it's. I
We've
mean,
been
there's so many
guessing
things
about.
that we could spawn off into, but we all have to sleep at some point. And you know, our thing. One of the things we've talked about. We'd love to get you back because you know you've
Yeah,
got
I'd love to come back,
a lot
yeah.
of basketball knowledge and
I think just
About the
talk.
things
Say
that
NBA, wind you two up, and just go NBA, and then just let you go off.
well, my thing is always about why British basketball is not stronger than it is.
Yeah.
And you know, you talked.
Oh, we could open up all kinds of
I
rabbit
know,
holes
but
here.
and you've talked about you know you've one particular youth player that went up, did really well, went off to Portland after playing. You go, why have we not had multiple successions? Why in the NBA? I mean, now we see a lot of European players starting to come through. We don't really see very many British players coming through, but that's for a whole other thing.
You're just trying to get 3 hours, aren't you?
How no.
I tell you what, just because it's so interesting, I'm just going to get Ryan's opinion on this wide topic.
Do it.
Okay.
This week's wide topic: Wilson are designing a new basketball. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I've not heard this. No.
Right. So, basketball, leather, air, basically, yeah. They've designed a ball which is some kind of carbon mesh fiber with holes in it, so you can see through it. There's no air.
I have heard about this. Sorry. I carry on because I kind of ignored it because I hated it immediately. But
this guy I saw, he was bouncing. He goes, that is the same weight as a normal basketball. I don't know if it'd feel the same. I'm not sure how that would work, but they're saying by being able to create that exact same weight, they can do that. There's no variation across any of the leagues, any games that use that basketball. It's actually see-through. That's the weird thing. So if I held it in between our faces, you'd see our faces because it's got little, really small holes. Yes? No? You a fan? The Wilson see-through basketball. No air.
why?
What's the best ball?
Oh God, that's a good question.
Oh God, he's just trying to get through.
No,
it,
I'm just
isn't
saying. No, you're just saying this. I'm just saying. What is the best ball? Is it
Again-
is it the FIBA, the orange and white one, or is it the
he? I
Wilson?
know Ryan's answer. He's going to say a ball he's played with that's got Fury written on it.
Of course, the best one.
I'm partial to when we played with the Spalding gold NBA balls. Do you remember those from
Yeah.
like the
Yeah.
late 90s, early 2000s? That's probably my favourite ball of
Yeah.
all time.
Nice.
I did like the Badens when they first came out with the white and orange like alternate. Those were okay.
That's the one. I think your brother's got. It takes practice sometimes, doesn't he? That Baden one.
Probably.
And it's
Probably.
super warm now.
Yeah.
But they had different grooves, didn't they?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't mind those, but if I had a choice, I'd take a Spalding. This 90s NBA fan coming back.
So you don't like Wilson innovation?
I don't mind the Wilson balls. I don't mind them, but
The
no.
see-through ones. I suppose it
No,
depends how
that
they
one,
feel
no.
like. Depends how they feel like,
Yeah,
doesn't it?
until you know you don't.
He likes his balls hard, big, and physical. He
Fill
doesn't
of
want them
air.
see-through.
Wow. Thanks for that.
And from the 90s.
I've just realised we're looking at the time, and Ryan hasn't even taken his shots yet.
No, he hasn't taken shots. Ryan, you got to take shots.
Okay.
Do it.
Right, hang on. Which one is it? Right, now we're going to see Ryan Payne
Off he goes.
go to the court to take his shots. He is taking his jacket off, ladies and gentlemen. He is taking this seriously. He's walking the distance to the line. He is looking serious and focused. Oh, did that go in? Touched the rim. The bonus Stevie Ware shot. I think it was in and out. In and out. It's hard.
It's harder than it seems. Yes. Always get it in one show.
It's hard. No, I don't. We need to take a picture of that, Mark, because no one can appreciate how hard that is. Well, they're not coming back. It's just me at the moment.
Yeah, no. They're not.
Do you want me to press this button?
Let's press the button.
Well, hang on. Before we do, let's just say that Ryan, really appreciate you coming on, mate. You've got a wealth of knowledge that is just
We're going to
great to listen to.
We're tapping you again.
And,
I really appreciate you guys having me on. It's been great.
Yeah, and no, I'm sure you guys know what we're talking about, but sometimes when people talking, you do hear you can hear a pin drop, and that's actually happened quite a few times with you talking to. It's great. You have got a good story when someone's when you feel that in the studio.
Yep.
So
definitely.
Yeah, really appreciate you coming, Ryan, and love to get you back on.
Yeah, I'd love it. Yeah, I'd absolutely. Yeah, really appreciate it. So yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Look forward to it.
And maybe you could coerce some people to coming on as well.
Yeah, give me a list of people you're aiming for, and let me see if I can talk them into it.
Grant Hill,
Penny Hardaway.
Penny, yeah.
Right, brilliant.
That's
Do you want me to
fantastic.
press that, Mark?
Go on. Yes.
There you go, Mark.
Yeah. Well, that's it, isn't it? That is the most epic, lengthy show.
Longevity.
Epic length. We'll leave it at that. Thank you so much, Ryan. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on you. We've got loads of shows coming up, but if you haven't heard all the other ones, go back and have a listen through. We've got plenty in the catalogue, but we have got plenty more coming up. So I've been Mark, he's been Paul. Thank you so much for listening to us, wherever you are and whenever you're listening. We appreciate it. Bye-bye.